Hello, Dr. Fauci.
Hello.
Buddy. Hi guys. How you doing?
We're so
Wonderful.
good.
Doing well, thank you.
Good.
So, Dr. Fauci, this is the fastest vaccine in human history. People want to know, did we undermine the safety of the vaccine because it was done so fast and without long-term studies?
Okay, so that's a great question. It's the most commonly asked question. There was no cutting corners. Safety was not compromised. Scientific integrity was not compromised. And I think people need to understand that the speed was related completely to the breathtaking scientific advances that had been made over the previous 10 or more years. Then the Moderna trial was 30,000 people. The Pfizer trial was 44,000 people. And it happened to be taking place in the middle of a ferocious outbreak. So when you're trying to prove a vaccine works and there are just a few infections here and there in society, it could take 7 years to get a vaccine. There were so many infections that we went from sequence to getting the vaccine in people's arms in less than a year. That is historic, but it's historic from a scientific standpoint. There was absolutely no cutting of corners at all.
So you're saying that there's no chance that there's some weird side effects that are going to pop up 3 years down the road?
The chance of that happening is spectacularly low. And let me tell you why. If you look at the history of all vaccinology and you say, when did these so-called longer-term effects occur? The overwhelming majority, 90+% of them, occur between 30 and 45 days after the vaccine trial ends. Effects occur. I've never seen one where I get vaccinated in 1982 and I get a toxic effect in 1986. I mean, I've never seen that happen with any vaccine.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question here. Can I still infect someone else after I get the vaccine? And do I have to keep wearing a mask after I get it?
The answer is yes, and I'll explain why. It is still conceivable that you could get infected and be asymptomatic. And even though the vaccine protected you from getting sick, it didn't protect you from getting infected. So you may not even know that you're infected and be completely asymptomatic and then spread it to somebody else.
I think that's been the scariest part of this whole pandemic, is that I could totally have it and not know, and that terrifies me.
We can pull back on masks when we get such an overwhelming proportion of the population is vaccinated that there's herd immunity, which means that the level of virus is so low that it's not a threat.
What percentage of people need to get the vaccine for us to achieve that?
You know, we don't know the exact number, but we can make a back of the envelope calculations that it's somewhere between 70 and 85% of the population needs to be vaccinated to get herd immunity.
And how soon after getting the vaccine would I be immune?
So let's say you get vaccinated and then 21 to 28 days later you get a boost. Anywhere from 10 to 14 days following the boost, you can consider yourself protected.
Dr. Fauci, a new COVID variant has been reported in over 40 countries and is said to be more transmittable. Will that make the vaccine irrelevant?
That has a mutation which is causing the virus to be much more easily transmissible from person to person. According to the Brits, who've looked at it very carefully, and we will also be doing the same thing, they find that the mutation does not make people sicker or even more people dying, nor does it seem to interfere with the protection that's afforded by the vaccine. So the only thing that's functionally different, it appears to spread more easily.
I have a newborn child. We just got his 2 months vaccines for all of the other stuff, but I've been really worried about COVID. When can my kids get the vaccine? Do they need to get it?
They do, but let me tell you what the strategy has been for decades and decades and decades with vaccines. Children and pregnant women are vulnerable, so the general policy has been you do not vaccinate children or pregnant women until you've proven that the vaccine induces the same sort of response that it induces in normal adults and protects them. And you do what's called a bridge. You bridge the immunogenicity study in the children and the pregnant women with the efficacy study that you've already completed, and you make a determination that it's okay to give it to children. We're going to start that likely towards the end of January. We'll be doing that in children.
Oh, that's soon.
So, Dr. Fauci, we know that the vaccine doesn't instantly make everything better. So what can you tell us about what the next few months look like?
By the time we get to April, I think it would be open season, namely anybody can get vaccinated. There's no restrictions on it at all because all the priority people have been vaccinated. If we then vaccinate at a very good rate, we get to the end of the summer, we will have reached that percentage of herd immunity so that in the fall, if everybody gets vaccinated, that should get vaccinated, we can start approaching a degree of normality. That doesn't mean nobody wears a mask, but that does mean kids can feel secure at school, you can go to a sporting event, you can go to a restaurant and have dinner, you can go to the theater, things like that. The critical issue is that we want to really make sure that this vaccine hesitancy that we see around gets overcome by the truth that the vaccine is safe and it's efficacious and it will protect you, your family, and ultimately all of society. So go out there and beat the bushes. Tell your friends to get vaccinated.
I believed COVID vaccine conspiracy theories on the internet.
Okay, Dr. Fauci. Are you lying when you said you got the vaccine?
No, right here.
The vaccine ingredients more toxic than COVID-19 itself.
Absolutely not.
Will the vaccine change my DNA?
Absolutely impossible.
Well, do the vaccines deliver a microchip with a barcode into my arm to keep a track of me wherever I go?
No, it doesn't.
Dr. Fauci, we want to thank you so much for your time. Is there any one last thing you would say to people who do not want to get the vaccine?
Yeah, I think they really need to examine carefully in their mind the reasons for that. If it's really based on a lot of people talking about hoaxes and things like that, you really got to take a look at the risk that we're going through. We're going through a real historic challenge, the likes of which we haven't seen in 102 years. And all of this nonsense about fake news and hoax and all that, I mean, that just results in more people dying.
We want to thank you so much for everything you do.
Yes, it's been a real pleasure.
Get vaccinated, everybody.
You bet. Do it.